So we're given this Audi Q7 to have a look at. It had been with numerous garages. It had problems with the turbo actuator, various parts thrown at it trying to cure the problem. Nobody could quite get to the bottom of what was going on. It kept going into limp mode. Seemed to be some kind of electrical fault. So we went through it to see if we could figure out what was going on. Let's see what happens. That's the push rod. It's mechanically driven, and the thing that controls that, and that's fine by the way, the thing that controls that is this electrical box, which it appeared to be completely locked up. So there's a little arm that turns, basically. It's on a worm gear. It felt solid, it was locked, so we've opened it up just to make sure. All this side is perfectly good. We'll notice that this is a 12 volt motor in here, so it's driven by 12 volts. So it stood to reason. These are the two pins that gives power to the 12 volt motor. So we've had a test meter on these two pins, and we had 12 volt power, that was there, but we're missing the earth was not there. And we realised that this pin coming in the back, which is plugged into there, that pin there is the feed coming in for the earth, which corresponds with that. So we measured between that pin and that pin, and we were good. It had good continuity, so it meant that we didn't have an earth coming into the plug at the back. So losing this box a minute, if we just wiggle that off please. So we're back to this, the wiring loom. This is the earth wire coming in. We measured the wire coming in next to it, which is a plus 12 volts. That one was a signal wire,
5 volts,
and then that one next to it was a 5 volts from the ECU. So what we're missing was the earth, which should be a fairly common earth. Anyway, you can see that wire quite clearly is the brown with the grey stripe. That's the earth wire for the turbo actuator. So we've traced it back. The first thing I noticed on the ECU, without going too much into it, was that these two pins in the bottom corner look slightly different to the rest of the pins. Bet you any money that's the same earth wire. So we followed the wiring back, and sure enough, it's the brown and the purple, which is your positive feed for the turbo actuator, and it's the brown and the grey, which is the negative feed for the turbo actuator. And then we started looking a bit closer, in the exact same location on the plug and the ECU, it's completely melted, and it looks like it's the shape of a drill bit. So that's why there's no earth. I'm surprised you've got power to it, to be honest. So we've still got power. Anyway, we go back to, keeping in mind this is a wet area, it's where all of the water runs in. Looking back at this ECU, at them dodgy pins, somebody has drilled a hole straight through that plug, straight through there, and it's, you can see, they're the two pins, that's your positive and that's your negative for the turbo actuator, and that's why it's cooked itself. So we don't have an earth. So what's the solution? So probably needs a new wiring loom, to be honest. You would have to buy that section of wiring loom and fit it. That's the proper repair that it needs. This is the offending wire, and obviously when you look at the face of this plug, turn it to its face, then pins should be at the top. Well, this one, if you look in the side, it's not at the top. You see I'm wiggling on it now. That's the wire, that's the earth for the actuator, and it's sort of floating down the bottom somewhere. So the challenge now is see if we can wiggle it back into the correct position, and then if we can, perhaps we can araldite or something in that hole, just to make sure it's not going to move, so it's going to stay in the correct spot. But essentially all we've got to do is get the earth from there to, where is it now, to the corresponding pin, which I think's the second one in, just to remove any element of doubt. That's what earth wire, the end one here, which is the brown and grey wire, if you see. So if I probe at this end, that's there. So it's the same corresponding wire that you can see through that hole. Obviously the meter's nothing at the minute. Just probe that, please. On and off. So that's the wire that we're talking about.
Yeah, for you.
And that's the one that controls the turbo actuator. So there you go. So we've got it all back together. So this is the turbo actuator, that's the unit, and it's that push rod that needs to move. Right, go on, start it up, see if it works. Get in. Woohoo! All I've done is I've managed to manoeuvre the original pin back into the correct position into that plug. So I've clipped it back in. It may go down again. If it goes down again, we know why. That pin, there's a bad connection in there. So we're just going on a test run on live data for boost. We weren't really getting much to speak of before. There's no engine management lights on at the minute, so we've cleared that out. Windscreen wipers work. Oh yeah, boost run. So we're straight up in the boost now.
Okay, when we're going to small, I'm just going to smooth the accelerator and see what the pressure
Okay,
is.
right, go on then. Oh, nice. So,
look at that.
So that's smooth now. It's got
Go
boost.
Limp.